Wow, so we are back. Hello and welcome to the session 2 of the second day of the FSM Future Skills Maritime 2020. Thank you, everybody, all the global speakers and participants who've been here with us since yesterday. It's a huge session. We are very proud. We've had a huge following on our Facebook live feeds. And we are going to introduce today stalwarts of the maritime industry coming and talking of something which, of course, defines any industry. We're talking of the building human capital for and of the future. So I will be handing over to our session host, Sudha. Sudha, if you can take time to introduce the participants, and then all yours.
Thank you, Captain Shaukat Mukherjee. Our session is titled Building Human.
Captain Shiv Halbe, CEO, Maritime Association of Ship Owners, Ship Managers and Agents, MASA. Captain Halbe, born, brought up and schooled in Kolkata, passed out from T.S. Rajendra in 1976 and thereafter joined Scindia Steam Navigation Company as a cadet and served in various ascending capacities till 1986. He then joined international flagships in 1986 and sailed till 1991 as master on cargo ships, bulk carriers, tankers and ore oil carriers. Captain Shiv shifted ashore in 1992 with Denholm Ship Management as a superintendent in Mumbai and rose to general manager in 1996. He has been closely involved with the setting up of MASA Maritime Academies in Mumbai and Chennai. In 2002, he started and set up ASP Ship Management in Mumbai, India. His previous stint was with Gulf Energy Maritime Services as MD for 9 years. Presently, Captain Halbe is the CEO of MASA since 2018. He is a fellow of the Company of Masters Mariners of India and also a fellow of Nautical Institute UK. The Naval Connection proudly presents Captain Shiv Halbe as moderator at the FSM 2020. Jllian Carson Jackson, President at the Nautical Institute and MD JCJ Consulting Australia. Jllian Carson Jackson, FNI, FRIN, commenced a career in the Canadian Coast Guard, graduating from the Canadian Coast Guard College as a navigation officer. With over 3 decades in the industry, Jllian has worked both afloat and ashore in the CCG, including 10 years as an instructor at the CCGC. Following an active role at IALA in the development of BTS training, she moved to France to work with IALA as Technical Coordination Manager. She then moved to Australia to work with the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, AMSA, as Manager of Vessel Traffic and Pilotage Services. In 2016, Jllian left AMSA to set up her own consultancy focusing on maritime technical advice and education. In May 2020, Jllian was appointed as Director of Global MET. Jllian represents the Nautical Institute at IALA as Chair of the Emerging Digital Technologies Working Group, ENAV Committee, and the Personnel and Training Working Group, VTS Committee. In July 2020, Jllian was elected as a President of the Nautical Institute, the body representing maritime professionals. Jllian's work precipitates from years of experience and is like the morning dew, fresh and sparkling. The Naval Connection proudly presents Jllian Jackson as a keynote speaker at the FSM 2020. Dr. Sanjay Bhavnani, Chairman, Foreign Owners and Ship Managers Association, FOSMA, and COO at MMS Maritime India Private Limited. After having sailed out at sea as a chief engineer on oil tankers for several years, Dr. Sanjay Bhavnani came ashore in 1998. After a couple of stints on shore, first as in charge of tanker-related training at a maritime training institute, and second at head office of the Japanese shipping company Meiji Shipping in Tokyo, he moved to the newly formed subsidiary of the Japanese company MMS Maritime India Private Limited in April 2002, where he has served since then in the capacity of Director and Chief Operating Officer. His perspective on the crew aspects is based on close interactions with seafarers and shore staff, where he aligns expectations within an overall integrated framework that is based on continually increasing industry demands. Dr. Bhavnani has completed a Master's in Business Administration, followed by Master's in Maritime Law from the UK. He has also been awarded a doctorate for his studies in Marine Human Resources. The Naval Connection proudly presents Dr. Sanjay Bhavnani as speaker at the FSM 2020. Debajyoti Mohanty, Dev, General Manager and Global HR Business Partner, Asia, AP Moller Maersk Technology. Debajyoti, Dev Mohanty, has more than 15 years of experience across the breadth of HR delivery and talent transformation. He is an alumnus of XLRI Jamshedpur and has worked with global and Indian majors like PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, ICICI Prudential and Petronet LNG and ONGC Group Company. Dev is currently working with AP Moller Maersk Technology as General Manager and Global HR Business Partner for Technology and Transformation. Maersk Technology is into shipping technology product and solutions. He has also led COE roles like Total Rewards, Talent Management, Organization Design, HR Analytics and Talent Acquisition in his previous stints. Outside of work, he has interest in Indian, Greek, Roman mythologies and their impact on modern society. The Naval Connection is proud to host Mr. Debajyoti Mohanty as speaker at the FSM 2020. Naomi Rewari, Director, Applied Research International. Naomi is instrumental in setting up of ARI, Applied Research International, one of the largest maritime training institutes in India, operating for more than 20 years and training thousands of students and senior seafarers for pre-sea and post-sea courses. Naomi leads the Simulation Technology Division of ARI, delivering simulation solutions across the globe in various industry verticals, including marine offshore, energy, defense, construction, and general industry. The company also provides digital training solutions, including remote assessment modules. Naomi has prepared several training guidelines for the Directorate General of Shipping India and has co-authored the IMO Model Course 6.10, Train the Simulator Trainer and Assessor. She is a practitioner using psychometric tools for personality and aptitude assessment of personnel, and as a counselor, she provides individual and family counseling to seafarers and their families. Naomi's contribution to maritime training and education over the years has been immense, probably much more than she thinks of it herself. The Naval Connection proudly presents Naomi Rewari as speaker at the FSM 2020. I now request our esteemed moderator for the session, Captain Halbe, to initiate the session titled Building Human Capital of and for the Future. Thank you. Over to you, Captain Halbe.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sudha. Firstly, good morning, everyone. And I must acknowledge and thank Naval Connection and Captain Shaukat for venturing into this area, a very necessary area. We all talk about the future, but do we do much about it? That's probably the question. Uh, STCW is the backbone of maritime training, and that's for seafarers I'm talking about. And it is the minimum standard and not a means to an end. But unfortunately, that is what exactly it has become. And any efforts to deviate or improve upon them are either rejected outright or frowned upon. Probably the reasons best known. I can't answer that one. When we talk about building human capital for the future, we need to look at what the future beholds. I think we also need to ask that are we capable for the present? Because when it was prepared, whatever syllabus and training modules are prepared, by the time they are implemented, the future becomes the present. And somewhere that gap does exist. And when we are preparing for the future, of course, we have to talk about hard skills and soft skills. And one area which is somewhat ignored is the soft skills. We do not realize or do not acknowledge that there is remarkable work and development taken place in the area of development of the human being. There is far more understanding of how humans react in certain situations, how humans act in certain situations, and as well as mental issues like depression. But generally, the tendency is to focus on the hard skills because they are very objective. Could you do this yesterday? No. Can you do it today after the training? Yes. That's very easily identifiable. On a lighter note, when I was a cadet on the training ship Rajendra during my pre-sea training days, we had a talk on board by the then head of country of American Bureau of Shipping. He was an expatriate gentleman. And during the talk, he mentioned that one of the skills that we cadets will need to acquire is in pressing buttons, because that's what automation will be doing. He was not very much off the mark, probably. Yes, that it has become some areas have become like that. The pandemic has fast-tracked the IT sector considerably, and it's been 8 months. Has there been a disruption because of that in what we do? The ship still moved. The people moved, but there was a break on their movement, not because we couldn't move them, because certain rules prevented them from moving, and certain countries or rules prevented, put some more barriers in place. So, but the business didn't stop. And we have accepted that as the new normal. And what I understand that also has become a challenge, because now people in the offices are questioning, why do I need to come to the office at all? I have done everything you wanted me to do from home, which is, I think, a fair comment. The concept note states that the optimal safety standards can be delivered by mixture of humanity and bots, and thus the number of human beings on board might reduce, but we will achieve greater consistency by use of technology. This is not new to us. We may not have seen bots, but we have seen improvement and introduction of new technology over the years. Example, UMS, unattended machinery space, came about 45 or 50 years ago, and it made certain positions on board redundant. GMDSS came about 25 years ago, and it demolished certain positions, unfortunately. Technology has had impact on shipboard operations for other areas as well. Manual valves on tankers gave way to hydraulic valves, remote operated hydraulic valves. Manual gauging and temperature measurement every hour gave way to remote gauging and remote sensing with remote readouts. That resulted in less number of persons required to operate VLCCs. Earlier in the 1970s, we used to have 45 and 50 people on board a VLCC, which today you have barely 18 or 19, or that's about it. But this also required that the seafarers had to be upskilled or retrained in hydraulics, pneumatics, electrical, electronics, and all sorts of understanding, which needed a new way of thinking altogether. But the question also comes up that why does technology come in? Why is it introduced? Sometimes it is introduced because of legislative requirements. Sometimes, of course, because the business demands that's how you get efficiency. Sometimes it is social needs that force us to have technology. A classic case would be internet on board ships. It's a need. There is no demand, business demand. It's a need. It's a social need which has now translated into a business demand. You have internet on board. It's an accepted thing. If I now tell a seafarer this ship doesn't have internet, I won't have a queue of people wanting to join that ship. That's a need now. And of course, the basic thing, human need for innovation. Human beings will innovate whether we want it or we don't want it. That will happen. And that is the need for development of the human being anyway. A classic story comes to mind is that of Alexander Graham Bell, the man who patented the first working telephone. And he did it in 1876 or so. He was a scientist, and his domain was elocution and speech therapy. Invention of a telephone or working model was a byproduct. And to the point, he found that it interfered with his working so much that he refused to have one installed in his own study because he couldn't do his own work otherwise, which was, study of speech and elocution. And interestingly, his mother and his wife were hearing impaired. And that was the reason why he wanted to develop work on the speech and elocution. I will complete with another anecdote about Alexander Graham Bell, that when his telephone was shown to the then US president, I do not recollect whether it was Ulysses Grant or Rutherford Hayes. I do not recollect that. But it was shown to him. The president remarked that, what a nice instrument. Wonder what use it is going to be. So I think history is telling us what use it is to us. So with that, I will close my opening remarks. And we have a very esteemed and achieved panel with us. And I hope we all pay close attention to what they have to say. They have a wealth of experience and they can give us a lot of direction. So first, over to you, Jllian.
Thank you very much. Just 1 second and I'll share my screen. Very good. Could you confirm that you can see my screen now, please?
Yes.
Excellent. That's wonderful. It's a really great opening. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here. And I really, of course, would like to thank the Naval Connection. I'd also like to thank you, Shiv, as well, for your opening remarks, linking back to Alexander Graham Bell, who, of course, spent most of his time doing his work on sound and also on flight in Baddeck on Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia, which is where the Canadian Coast Guard College is, which is where I taught for over 10 years. So it's actually got a lovely connection. So thank you very much. I am really honored to be speaking at this event. It's such an interesting event during a really difficult time, and it's a unique platform. I'm really enjoying the opportunity to participate with these events, and I'm coming to you from my home in Canberra, as I know other people are going from other homes around the globe. Just a few words, of course, about the Nautical Institute. So the Nautical Institute is a representative body of maritime professionals from around the world. You might know the NI best for its publication Seaways and also the work that we do on the Navigator. There's also a range of specialist books that are published, and we also have a number of short courses. The focus of the Nautical Institute on professionalism led the NI into the realm of accreditation, initially for DP training, but it also does accreditation of other services now. And we have a consultative status at the IMO. We support all of our members, of course, with a portal, and we heard about the excellent work that's going on in some other portals and websites around the globe, and I really enjoyed the session just before this, where we learn more about what the Naval Connection is doing. There's more than 7,000 members in 120 countries, and we work through our branches. Our strength is really in our branch network. So that's just a little bit about the Nautical Institute. And my role within the Nautical Institute, one of my challenges that I actually had within the Nautical Institute was about this thought of what is the maritime professional in an increasingly digital and autonomous environment. So I want to take the next few minutes just to talk about the maritime professional. What is a maritime professional? The thought of this changing skill set, and it's not that it's something new. Our skill sets are always changing, our skills, our abilities, and we heard examples of the concept of retraining. And that brings me then to my next idea, which is learning to learn. And the future, I really feel, is coming towards us in the concept of how we learn and what is learning. In my speech, when I accepted the role of the president of the Nautical Institute, I put 3 challenges forward, and one of those challenges is how to address the impact of technology on the maritime professional, and that is the seafarer, both when they're at sea and also when they've come ashore. So the maritime professional spans ship and shore, it spans technology capabilities, and it spans the depth of the maritime industry. So just a few thoughts on this. While technology is playing a major role in the response to COVID-19, technology in the industry is nothing new. And this digitalization has been started for quite some time. It is not unique to the maritime environment. In May 2019, before COVID, there was a time before COVID-19, the OECD Council approved the recommendations on artificial intelligence and agreed the standards that were identified as practical and flexible to withstand a rapidly evolving field. And I wonder if they realized then how rapidly it would evolve. So the OECD principles of artificial intelligence, they promote artificial intelligence that is innovative and trustworthy, that respects the human rights for democratic values. In essence, they are human-centered. And in the maritime industry, we know well about human-centered, the human-centered design and the work that was done. Australia was quite active in that work at the IMO on the human-centered design guidelines. These principles are really the first such principles that were signed up by governments and beyond the OECD members of a number of other countries as well. So human-centered digital society, a human-centered artificial intelligence. And then, of course, if we're going to be looking at these concepts and this digital development, there is the need for security, and the security linked to data exchange, the digital economy aspects. We in the maritime environment are very well versed when it comes to risk assessments and safety and security, and it fits in very well with our activities. So all of this is done, of course, within the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And this document actually came out in June of 2019. So the maritime professional now is within this framework that is a broader range of developments within the digital environment. You may have seen something similar to this concept of the digital wheel that they call it, and this aspect of digitalization. This digital wheel is something that we have had, for many years, and it has direct links to many aspects of our concepts of what is digital. So we go back a little bit more again to this OECD work, and there's the digital rights. Then we have digital literacy, digital communications, and in the maritime environment, we have seen a significant move between analog moving to digital communications. digital emotional intelligence, which is an interesting concept. So this is really linking into some of those soft skills that were identified in the opening. This idea that digital skills are not all hard, factual aspects, that you actually have an emotional element within it. Of course, the security and the safety, go very close in hand. The fact that we are using digital, and this platform is an example of that. We actually have opportunities to do high definition and low definition to address bandwidth issues. There is this real concern that we have within this digital use, this also concept of digital identity and the digital gap, so the haves and the have-nots. So these principles are set within the standards to be practical and flexible enough to stand a test of time. They complement the standards such as privacy and security and the aspect of responsible business conduct. Now, Piet Hein had a quote. He said, "When technology is master, we reach disaster faster." And when we look at all this technology, all of this really exciting tools that we have available, are we starting to lose the human element? Are we losing what is the core of what we are doing in maritime? And back to my initial question, what is a maritime professional in an increasingly digital and, yes, autonomous environment? And I use autonomous not in the concept of unmanned. So there's different levels of autonomy, as we know. And the Sheridan have these 10 principles, levels of autonomy. When we're thinking about how we're going to address this future aspect, future skills, who are the maritime professionals into the future, I think it really behooves us to go back and think about the basic concepts, the basic tenets of education. And those are the different training taxonomies for the 3 main domains, your affective, your psychomotor, and your cognitive domains. And these domains have been in existence for decades. Bloom did his initial work on his cognitive taxonomy, his knowing taxonomy, back in the 1940s. It's been revised and there's been work that has been going on. But these aspects of knowing, this cognition concept, and going from the lower order levels of thinking to the higher order levels of thinking, it brings you through this continuum of the maritime professional at different levels in their career as well. So that's the cognitive or the knowing aspect. Then we also have the affective. We're getting into some more of these soft skills that we talked about, that Shiv mentioned so well in the introduction. Within the affective, these are more the feeling, the receiving, responding, the valuing aspects. But again, they have been grouped from the lower order to the higher order. And of course, the psychomotor. This is where you can actually see somebody do something. So, when we're thinking about a simulator, we give them a task and we watch what they've done. And it's that very practical aspect that they can follow rules, that they can adapt within an environment, they can implement systems. Actually, when you're putting a simulator together or looking in the maritime industry for training, you're really seeing a grouping of all 3 of these. And I think one of our goals should be, in looking to the future, is not only looking at the digital taxonomy, which has been done. Churches has put together the Bloom's taxonomy into a digital environment, but looking at a specific taxonomy that addresses the practical elements of industries that, such as maritime, but not only maritime, but industries such as maritime that work very strongly within the simulated environment. So we need to adapt these taxonomies to a digital environment so that we can ensure that the education and the future skill set that we are putting together is actually going to address the needs within an ever-changing maritime environment. Which brings me to the final point that I wanted to highlight, and this is this concept of learning to learn. I believe that if we are looking to the future and looking at what our training approaches are, we have to rethink how we approach our concept of learning. It's not that you go and you get a degree and then you move on and do a job. It's a continuum of learning. So we are looking at the existing seafarers who have a varying age range and different levels of adaptation already to technology. But we're also looking to the future seafarers. Who are the maritime professionals in the future? Learning from Malcolm Knowles and the standards of andragogy, looking at how adults learn, we are looking at how we can make the approaches to training and the new skill sets practical for what it is that someone needs to do. So we're moving from teaching to learning, and this continuum of learning, rather than getting one course done and I tick that box, that we actually have this continuum of learning and the focus on continual professional development. A number of years ago, probably well over 15 years ago, the Nautical Institute started working very actively in this concept of continuing professional development. Because what I learned as a cadet in the 1980s, if I take a look at, I was talking with my husband the other day, not only did I learn Loran, I learned Deca. So we have some technologies that were very active and we had to learn them at the time. They're not necessarily suitable for now. So this continuum of learning, this need to keep on top of what's happening is not going away. It's going to become even more important. And that leads me to this concept of this new branch of maritime, perhaps, that we will be seeing coming. And just a couple of weeks ago, there was a book that was launched by Michael Lind on maritime informatics. So maritime informatics is defined as being the application of information systems to increase efficiency, safety, and ecological sustainable of the world's shipping industry. So it's a very specific definition. But what it is, it's an applied science that's looking at how we are going to look to the future for maritime. Now, is maritime informatics almost like a core concept, perhaps, within all of our maritime training for the future? Maritime informatics in itself is an applied science, and it's been developed within this structure of a digital environment that is moving into the physical and the virtual world, and we're starting to see this blurring of ship and shore. So these skills that we have need to be both afloat and ashore, and that skill set that we are seeing, the lines through digital data exchange, and not only through the internet that is available for crew use, for example, but the internet that is being used effectively for data exchange to monitor equipment on board a vessel, to provide up-to-date weather information from the region. So you've got these skills that are now moving from afloat to ashore. So just a few thoughts, and I am very conscious of the time that I've been allocated. I don't want to go over time. This quote I really think is very pertinent. We don't want to reach disaster. We don't want technology to be master. I think we need to ensure that we are masters of the technology. There's a lot of capability, and we can make technology work for good. Examples such as this great opportunity to connect, and the work that the Naval Connection has done in bringing this Future Skills Maritime global virtual conference to our desktops, is just one example of where we can work to master technology. So I am conscious of my time, and I think I've managed to keep it right on, I hope. So just pass back to you, and thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this panel. And Shiv, I think you are still muted.
Yeah, there it is. When technology is mastered, this is what happens.
That's right. We don't want disaster.
So, thank you, Jllian. Thank you so much. And it also brings me back to the gentleman from American Bureau of Shipping. I did not do very well at pressing buttons, it seems. I should have pressed that button before I spoke. So, thank you, Jllian. Thank you, Jllian. Thank you so much for keeping to the time. And when the first session of the morning is on time, everything else is on time. It's the pride of princes, after all. May I now request Dr. Sanjay to come on stage, please?
Well, Captain Halbe, thank you very much. Let me just share my screen first. Are you able to see something?
We could see, but it was a blank presentation, not the one you showed us during the trial.
Technology has indeed become the must.
Yep. Yes, it is. It is.
Let me. Is something visible now?
No.
I can see from here it is being shared.
No, but we can't. You just repeat what you did the previous time when you showed us.
Because it is asking me that I have to click something if I have to stop sharing. So I assume it is being shared.
No.
Okay, I will click on stop sharing and then I will restart or attempt to restart.
Yes, sir. Dr. Bhavnani, what I will suggest is, I think if you're having an issue, then we can go to the next speaker if the moderator agrees, and then we will sort out your issues in the meantime.
Yeah, sure, absolutely,
Sure.
yeah.
Great idea, Shaukat. Thank you so much. Can we ask Naomi to?
Yeah, sure. Shiv. Yeah, thank you, Captain Halbe, and welcome everybody.
Visible, Naomi, very visible.
Okay. As I said, a warm welcome. It's strange to be sitting here not being able to see faces, but thank you, Shortcut, for organizing this platform where we can meet together and we can discuss and reflect on some very crucial issues which are going to affect all of us in the industry. So when I was preparing for the panel discussion, I thought very often in the industry we're a little bit insular. Very often we just talk amongst ourselves. So when I wanted to share a few thoughts, I thought, let me look and see what is happening, outside of our shell, and in terms of workforce and the development of the workforce for the future, what is generally happening in industry. So this is a pre-COVID, the World Economic Forum report from 2019. And I just picked out 5 significant changes which they are predicting for the future and for how the workforce is changing. First was that AI and robots will ultimately create more work, not less. There'll be no shortage of jobs, just shortage of skilled talent. Remote working will become the norm, and that was quite predictive, being pre-COVID. The majority of the workforce will freelance by 2027, and technological progress will continue. Learning new skills will be an ongoing necessity through life. So as I read through this report, I thought, well, this seems very, very familiar. Some of these points are not too far away from our own industry. And it made me reflect and think, and that in many ways we are ready for the change, as these factors are already fairly inherent in our industry. And that was, in a way, a pleasant surprise for me. I took a few of those factors, like remote working will become the norm. And that's what we've seen over the last 9 years, and it's accelerated. But in many ways, the shipping industry, we are used to working in a fragmented manner with remote centers, and of course, the ship being a remote office. The acceleration has been there, as I said, over the last few months, but seafarers are accustomed to already working on long distance in a person contactless operations from head office to satellite centers. Also looking at the freelancing, while I felt that the majority of the workforce will freelance by 2027, well, already seafarers are working on a contractual basis, and in many ways can be termed as freelancers. And I felt that this perhaps then is an opportunity if we're looking towards a framework where people will be working more remotely, there'll be more flexibility in the way that work is organized, then that provides an opportunity for our seafarers who are working on ships, perhaps to take up, in their free time or in the time when they're not working on board ship, certain other jobs and roles. So I felt rather than narrowing, perhaps, as we see the future changes coming in, it may be opening up horizons for our seafarers. Another of the points, technological progress will continue. Learning new skills will be an ongoing necessity throughout life. So there again, I reflected and thought, well, the structure that we have in our maritime education and training is already designed for continuous progress. And it was nice to see Jllian talk about the continued professional development work that the Nautical Institute is doing. And I think we need to build on the structure that we have, not just in terms of mandatory training, but looking at how we can upgrade and provide opportunities for our seafarers continuing to learn skills as they go through life. The mental framework is already there. When we join the industry, we're aware that at various times we're going to have to come back, we're going to revisit our skills, we'll come back to college to recertify, to upgrade ourselves. So in many ways, the structure and the framework is there, we just need to take that forward. Many people are talking about how it's going to require a multi-skilled approach, and as we move forward, people need to adapt. Well, my work with seafarers over the last 25 years has shown me that seafarers already wear many hats. Adaptability is an inherent trait in our seafarers, and as a psychologist, when we select and we looked for potential individuals who will be successful in this career, adaptability is one of the key traits that we look for, and certainly it's a trait which gets developed over time. Especially with the top 4 on board ship, they have to play a myriad of roles as they work on board ship. So what I feel is this inherent ability of seafarers to be able to adapt, to be able to handle different situations, different environments, different teams, is a trait which is going to stand us in good stead as we move forward and adopt the challenges of the future. So the accelerated adoption of technology, what do we expect to see? Everyone is talking, the whole seminar, the buzzwords of AI and assisted technologies. When Shortcut spoke about the panel discussions and the fact that would bots be taking over on board ship, well, yes, we will see some assistance in the mechanical sphere, but I think it's going to take time. And if we're talking about specific tasks of maintaining the vessel, then humans still will have a very significant role to play for many years to come. What we'll look at in terms of assistive technologies is prompting for humans. And as Jllian said, I don't think things are new. It's just a continuum along which we are progressing. Maybe the speed is speeding up a little bit, but prompting and assistance has been something which has been there throughout the history. And a few words which came to mind were navigational aids, system support, which already we are very familiar with in our own industry. So perhaps the level and the complexity of assistance will increase, and more in terms of decision support that we will receive. But the human, I feel, is very much still within the loop. And when we talk about autonomous and humanless ships, well, that is present-day jargon, and in many ways I'm not sure what it means. Yes, we're talking about perhaps looking at a time where there will be very few, if not any, humans on board a ship. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the ship is autonomous. The box which is there in the middle of the ocean perhaps does not have human beings, but human beings will very much be in the loop. Maybe the placement where they're working from and the role may change. But I don't see a world of autonomy where machines will be taking over to happen. And as Jllian said, I think being the master of technology is going to be key. A question perhaps that is going to be significant, and one that we should maybe reflect as a panel, is well, where does the intelligence and the knowledge, where will that persist? Is it with the human? Is it with machine, or with both? So as we look to the future to prepare the human capital, what changes do we need to look at? Well, I went back then to the World Economic Forum, and this time I looked at the report from 2020 and looked at some of the skills which they anticipate and predict are going to be required for the workforce looking forward to the future. And many of these, if we look at the top few, analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis. And the question is, well, are these relevant across our industry? And I think, yes, if as things move forward, these are going to be the skills which are going to be required for our seafarers. As we look at a transition to autonomous ships or ships where we have less people working on them, this is just a framework perhaps which may come into force in the future. Currently, we have our standard traditional navigation and engine department. Possibly through the transition, we will have a lead asset manager, and on board we may have professionals who are more skilled in the digital realm, who can deal with a lot of the analysis of data and the informatics, which Jllian again referred to. But we will still have our onboard domain experts, and perhaps at the beginning those two will be separate. As we move forward, we'll see a merging of those roles, where we will continue to have the domain expertise, and those skills and knowledge will still be required. We will not lose those, but we will add in the additional skills in terms of analytics, machine learning, sensors, IoT and data analytics. So what do we need to do? I think we do need an immediate revamping of our curriculum to introduce topics which are relevant both for today and in the future. And I think we need to reflect on our access to education. Yes, we do have short courses and the competency courses as we move forward, and Jllian spoke about professional development courses as well. But I feel we do need to look at a modular credit-based program of courses where seafarers who are particularly interested in a topic can delve into that issue in more detail. Perhaps each time when they're down, they can spend some time studying and building up an expertise over time. It may be a course which can extend for 3 years, 5 years in a credit-based program, but where they are able to actually apply their mind and follow some interest areas. I feel we need greater involvement of OEMs and industry in education and training. Working from an organization ourselves that are involved in training, it is extremely hard now to keep pace for our faculty. And I think more communication, more interaction between industry and the maritime institutes around the world is going to be required as we move forward. And Jllian also touched on this, but use of modern techniques of training, which will inherently develop critical training skills in our seafarers. For me, it's the process as well as the content. The content will keep changing, development will still happen, but it's the process in which we teach our seafarers and the way in which they learn, which is going to be fundamental for allowing them to be skilled for the future. And for me, what's going to be critical is if we want to change the methodology of how we teach, then we need to change the methodology of how we assess and whether we truly do assess and can assess competence. So I think adoption of assessment techniques which not only assess theoretical knowledge, but assess application of knowledge. So the ability to be able to critically analyze, interpret, anticipate, evaluate. These are the skills that if we build that into our assessment framework, then automatically training institutes and seafarers will be encouraged to learn in that manner. STCW 2010 already allows for this. Demonstration of competence is through various modes, which include simulation. We do not need to wait for the future. We can, if we change our assessment techniques today, then I think the skills that we're looking for, which the Economic Forum 2020 report referred to, will automatically be inherently developed within our seafarers. In terms of using simulation as an assessment technology, well, the horizons are expanding fast. COVID has fast-tracked the introduction of cloud-based simulation solutions, and digital programs are rapidly being introduced across the industry. The accessibility to simulation has seen a fundamental change over the last 9 months. And it's not inconceivable to have a large number of candidates independently, simultaneously, remotely hooked up to a simulation exercise which is assisted by AI for assessment and evaluation. Prompting is there from the system when required. And then the results are digitally displayed, which will provide a guide for future training and learning. So I think COVID, in a way, it's not been a blessing, but it has forced us to look at how we're utilizing a technology. And I think use of the cloud and marrying simulation with that provides us an opportunity to be able to evaluate our seafarers in a fundamental way in which their skills are being assessed, not just their theoretical knowledge. And that will be a driver towards change. So just to finish off, I think technology for us should provide momentum for expanding our minds, our opportunities and our options. And I believe that seafarers inherently have the skills. We should think very positively about it and grab the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for a very lucid presentation. And yes, I have a lot of questions. So we will have a nice panel discussion for sure with you and Jllian having kicked off the morning. May I now, Sanjay? Dr. Sanjay, are you ready now?
Yeah, are you able to hear me, Captain Halbe?
Loud and clear. Are you good to go?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think so. But till the time it actually happens, cannot be 100% sure.
Very well, very well. We are all from the maritime industry, and we know that the definition of an arrived ship, in the commercial context, is a big definition. We know that. So over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you.
You have 12 minutes. So far, we have occupied, out of 2 hours, we have used 52 minutes. So.
Okay, is something visible?
Nothing yet, except you, of course, we see you.
So I wonder, are you not able to see the presentation at all?
No, we can see you though.
I wonder what I need to do more.
What did you do when we did the trial? It was perfect.
No. So let me help you, sir. So when you just click on share screen, please.
Yes. Bingo.
Yes.
There.
Bingo. Yes. Right.
I think whenever Shaukat comes into it, everything gets solved. Huh? Thank you very much, Shaukat.
I will put this as a tagline from you.
Yes, please do that. Thank you very much.
Over to you, Sanjay.
As well, Captain Halbe, thank you very much. My apologies for all these technical glitches, but I must assure you that I was really doing my very best. And until Shaukat really came in the picture, we were not able to handle it. Now it's all been done, so we will just continue with it. So first of all,
sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. My apologies.
Yes.
We are watching this Facebook also, so I would request you if you can just maximize the presentation in full screen mode. Then in Facebook, the screen looks very short. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So as I was saying, my thanks to Shaukat for helping me out with this technical glitch. And also my thanks to Shaukat and to the Naval Connection for giving me an opportunity to be here today and share my thoughts. I think this is a topic which is very relevant in today's time. Shipping stands on the cusp of a very major transformation. And as we have been really actually seeing over the last few years and probably hearing about it more, but I think a little bit of it has been seen, although at an incremental level. Major transformations are on their way over the next few years and definitely over the next few decades. And this particular seminar at this conference could not have really come at a much more appropriate time, because this is really the time when we really need to discuss about these things and make sure that the seafarer of the future is able to rise up to the demands which are going to be imposed onto him. The various stakeholders, the various elements, and the various other interest groups of the industry can then get together and try and see as to how these various challenges and the other demands can be satisfactorily met. Before I start off, let me just give a brief introduction to my company. I come from MMS Maritime India Private Limited. It is basically a part of the Meiji Shipping Group, which has been in existence in Japan since the year 1911. And as you can see from the slide, this particular company has got its various shipping divisions. One deals with the commercial management, the other one deals with the ship management, and of course, we have the third one which deals with the crew management. And the commercial management companies are all there. They are there in Japan, of course. They're also there in the Netherlands, representing the whole of Europe and the US. And the ship management companies are based in Japan. They're based in Singapore. And now also we have got one office here in India. And we see more and more activity which is going to be happening in the future on this front. As far as the crew management is concerned, which is probably the something which provides the foundation to all these various aspects. They're essentially based in India as well as in the Philippines, and there are different companies which deal with the various types of ships. The company owns and operates almost all types of ships, starting from bulk carriers, going on to oil tankers, going on to chemical tankers, going on to LPG, as well as the LNG tankers, on the crude tankers, the car carriers, the wood chip carriers, container vessels, and probably all the various types of vessels are just represented there. There's a very limited element where there is a non-shipping business of the company also which is there, and that is in the various real estate and the associated hotel owning business. I'm also wearing my hat of FOSMA during this particular talk. So to introduce FOSMA, which of course all of you would be very much familiar with, but FOSMA basically looks after and promotes the cause of the Indian seafarer at all times on all the fora. FOSMA ensures, along with the other industry groups such as MASA, to ensure that the Indian seafarer is always equipped with the required skills so that he continues to be employable right at the top in terms of priority, in terms of preference, by the various global ship owners and operators. And that is only going to be possible if the various skills which he has or which he possesses are able to be achieved, which can only be done through very effective training. And finally, of course, I think one of the goals of FOSMA is also to ensure that the Indian seafarer is able to sustain his gainful existence within the industry, and all the activities primarily rotate around these three major objectives. Just to give a small example, I think FOSMA, along with MASA, in a very strong partnership during the last few months, especially during the pandemic, took a lot of initiatives and arranged the various charter flights for the seafarers to be repatriated back to India, by being able to connect the various seafarers who were here in India to be able to join the ship in the absence of any commercial flight. That was something which was very, very critical, which was very, very important. And of course, we got the full support of the Directorate General of Shipping, and we got the full support of the Government of India. And of course, through our active dialogue with all the stakeholders, again, due to the kind intervention and support of the Government of India and the Directorate General of Shipping, we were able to get the various certification issues and the other associated documentary issues of the Indian seafarers sorted out, so that they continue to be gainfully employed within the industry and be able to contribute in terms of the world economy, for which the shipping is a very important industry. Going forward, let's look at the macro aspects of the global economy as it stands today. I think just a few facts. 50% of the world population is in the cities, and by the year 2050, it is estimated that 2/3 will be in the various urban areas. If you were to look at the last few decades, there has been a shift of power from developed economies to the emerging economies, which has actually integrated the world economy. And since 1995, as a very approximate multiple, the world GDP has doubled and the world trade has quadrupled. shipping will continue to play a vital role in international trade and the division of labor. I think shipping is something which is very, very critical. It's going to drive the international economy for a very, very long time and in the decades to come. Higher GDP growth has traditionally led to a growth in demand for shipping services. Although last few years there has been a weaker GDP growth, so there has relatively been a weaker demand for the shipping services. If you look at the world fleet, if this is as per May 2019, the data released by Clarkson's research, the world fleet is in the region of 96,000 ships, 2 billion deadweight, and 1.01 dollars trillion. 1.0 trillion dollars. That's how the entire thing has been there. The various vessels divided over the various types is also there. We find bulk carriers is at the highest end. We find container ships is at the next end. Not surprising at all. Crude tankers not very much behind, and so on. World seaborne trade by industry. I think if again we look at it, it basically complements the previous slide, and it gives us an idea that the various energy products, the metal industry, the agricultural products, the goods carried on the containers and other cargoes also find a representation here in order to complement the previous slide. The world fleet development, if you look at the year 1986 onwards, we find that the world fleet has been increasing till the year 2011. After that, the increase has been there, but then the increase has been there at a lower rate. And at a forecast, we can see that till the year 2030, which has been forecast, this again, courtesy Clarkson's research, released in March 2019, we find the year-on-year percentage change, although it's going to be lower, but definitely as far as the world fleet is concerned, that is definitely going to be increasing. What are the various mega trends which are going to impact shipping in the next 1 decade? Now, of course, this is something which was established before the pandemic, and probably after the pandemic, it will remain and it will probably be maintained as well. Maybe the rate of its introduction and the rate of its adoption is going to significantly increase. As far as the developing economies is concerned, we find that there's going to be a positive impact on trade, potential distance multipliers, and a maturing Chinese economy and globalization versus the protectionism, which we are, of course, we continue to witness, and we shall, of course, be witnessing in the years to come. There's been an energy mix, the shift of energy mix towards the cleaner fuels. There's been a lot of talk going on about various fuels. The conventional fuels are now being replaced, and if not already done so to a certain extent, and more fuels which are cleaner, which are more environmental friendly, they are the ones who are being identified, and more vessels are going to be using these fuels to be able to protect the environment and be able to stay on the right side of the regulations and be able to satisfy the cries made by the various environmentalists, very rightfully and justifiably so. We have a few vessels which operate on LNG as a fuel. We have a relatively lesser number of vessels which operate on methanol as a fuel. But I think in the years which are going to come, we will find more and more which are going to be using these fuels. Very important and a very significant aspect, environmental and regulation related impact. There's an accelerated environmental and regulatory timetable for shipping, which focuses on emissions and the carbon targets, increasing prominence of environmental concerns across the end users. How is this going to impact shipping? The equipment on ships is going to change. There would be alternative fuels, of course. There would be a time for retrofitting this equipment. There are going to be speed changes. The operations are going to probably change reasonably significantly. And of course, the recycling aspect is also going to be coming into the picture, because more and more vessels would be required to comply with the regulations. And if they will not be able to do it, they'll have no option but to get recycled. Trade and cargo storage patterns would also undergo a change, and this would only result in an increased level of transparency, uniformity, and compliance across the world global fleet. Technology. very, very important. We are standing on the cusp of it. In fact, we've been standing on the cusp of it since the last few years now, at least. But because of the pandemic, I think that cusp has now become that much more prominent. We are sure to find more and more aspects which are going to impact shipping related to the aspect of technology. What is it that we can expect? We can expect the seaborne trade patterns to change. We could see the vessel demands, efficiency versus disruption, which is also going to be impacted significantly. Equipment on the ships is, of course, going to be different. And all this will be brought about by the aspects which are listed as under smart shipping, IoT, Internet of Things, big data, autonomous ships, 3DP, robot factories, electric vehicles, blockchain, documentation, supply chains, so on and so forth. We could just go on and on. Now, let's focus on the environmental regulation. I'm talking about this because we are talking about the macro environment, and it's within this macro environment we need to try and zero down onto the skills which will be required from the various seafarers who will be sailing on the ships of today, of just in the future, as well as probably in the future beyond. We find this is the environmental regulatory timeline. This becomes more and more stringent. This is going to become more and more imposing and demanding, and this is going to be resulting in the entire ship management, ship operation going to be going in a relatively significantly different manner as it is being looked at today. If you look at it till 2015, 2050, 2050, there's a clear-cut focus on reduction of 50% greenhouse gases reduction, which has been established as the target. 40% carbon dioxide intensity reduction target in the year till the year 2030. And of course, for all the vessels, for all the entire industry to be able to comply with it, we should not be surprised if we find significant changes which are going to be visible in the way ships are going to be run. These carbon dioxide reduction targets cannot be achieved by one single technology, but it has to be done through various means. How can this be done? The various possible areas could be logistics. They could be focused on reduction of speed, ship size, utilization of ships, a reduction in the waiting times, optimum routing, etc., etc. They could be aspects which are related to a review of the hydrodynamics and their applications as compared to what is happening today, resulting in an optimal design of the hull fouling and the cleaning. There could be, there will certainly or most likely be a review of the entire machinery applications, resulting in use of surplus heat, optimization of machinery, usage of batteries, etc., etc. Fuel and energy sources are going to change, as we spoke about earlier. They could be LNG and LPG batteries, biofuel-based fuels, synthetic fuels, hydrogen, etc. And there will be a system for effective harbor operations to be able to complement all these things. Let's not be surprised if we find all these changes happening in the not too distant future. And what will be the
sorry to interrupt you. Couple of minutes, please. We have one more speaker and then question and answers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your reminder. I shall now accelerate. Thank you. So competence which will be required for the human capital to be able to cope up with all this. There would be logistics and optimization methods to achieve high vessel utilization, advanced routing, operation of complex hybrid and zero emission machineries, measurement, calculation and documentation of emissions, and performance management systems, besides having control centers supporting ships with optimization services, remote control, and autonomy. Now, very important, digital transformation and innovation. Digitalization is both a challenge for the existing business models, but at the same time, it is going to create new opportunities. It is bound to continue to have a disruptive effect on the industry. Speed and capacity have been continuously developed and new software continuously evolved with improved performance and functionality. Connectivity is the key technology which is going to drive this technology, where there will be aspects such as what we spoke about earlier on, Internet of Things, data analytics, blockchain, which can simplify and secure the entire supply chain. Holistic real-time data analytical rich management and operational view is probably what is going to be aimed as by an effective integration of all these aspects. The challenge is to establish high-speed internet access to and from ships everywhere, which is going to determine how soon all these developments are going to be introduced within the industry. SpaceX has launched 2 test satellites and is finalizing 60 more to be launched soon. And with 7,000 satellites planned to be transmitted, planned to be there over a long-term period, high-speed internet to be transmitted all over the globe does not really look to be a distant dream. Digital twins, we have a concept of this. We have a digital model of a real system, for example, a ship. A digital twin is something which will seamlessly transmit the virtual entity to exist simultaneously with the physical entity. Not only it learns and updates itself on a continuous basis, but it optimizes the operations throughout the value chain by taking into consideration the real performance of the physical system. What will be the opportunities in shipping or the impact? Semi-autonomous, autonomous ships. Well, so far it may be a concept, but then a strong indicator of certain or many shipboard functions based on the form of self-governance. We may not have an autonomous ship as such per se, but a lot of systems which are going to be working in an autonomous manners. There would be dispersed crew and remote operations of the vessels, cargo tracking, cargo condition monitoring, logistics and value chains, smart port operations, traffic and fleet management, e-brokerage platforms, smarter commerce with blockchain, anticipatory shipping, optimal routing, ship operations performance. What is the competence required for the human capital? The gap between the common practice, competence, and future opportunities is observed to be growing. Hence, skills supporting business development, taking advantage of technology will be most important. Advanced skills in analytics and data usage will be very, very important. An in-depth understanding of the complex systems on board to be able to serve the much needed redundancy of all systems. Ability to handle challenging interactions between complex autonomous systems and the crew, resulting from onboard integrated systems and technological developments is going to become indispensable. Human capital capabilities, just to sum it up now, I'm just finishing now, Captain Halbe. Technical
Thank you.
competency, technological awareness, adaptability and flexibility, computing and informatics skills, teamwork, communication skills, leadership discipline. To continue with the list, environmental sustainability awareness and concern for it, learning and self-development skills, complexity and critical thinking, language ability, professionalism and ethical behavior, responsibility, and of course, last but not the least, interpersonal and social skills. Let's look at the various technical skills, operations monitoring and analyzing, which of course probably is there to a large extent, but that has to be enhanced. Equipment operation and control, troubleshooting, maintenance and repair, information and data processing, programming. Emotional intelligence under the category of social, negotiation, language ability, communication with people, teamwork, and collaborating with others. Adapting to cultural differences, social list continues, ability to be compromising and cooperative, ability to transfer knowledge, leading and supervising. Methodological category specifies creating and innovating, cognitive ability, problem solving, conflict solving, reasoning and decision making, learning and researching, managing complexity, efficiency orientation, IT and technology affinity. Personal competencies to complement all the other various 3 categories earlier on: environmental awareness, safety awareness, legislation awareness, and flexibility, complemented by ambiguity tolerance, motivation to learn, ability to work under pressure, and this is only possible by having a sustainable mindset. Equally importantly, mariners should know how to interact with the computer systems to respond to challenges in the operation of highly automated semi-autonomous ships, such as when routes are changed or ships are in hazardous water. To know how to regain manual control of a ship, as they will also need knowledge of international and national laws and regulations to safeguard the company profits. And most importantly, is to understand the new roles and the skills that would be required of humans in the future, such as communication abilities in different languages, information security knowledge, how to secure and safeguard ships, negotiation ability, knowing specific cultures and laws in specific areas, and data analytics ability, retrieving knowledge from different data resources such as GPS, LIDAR, radar, and other systems and devices. Summarizing the human capital requirements, I think it is very, very important to understand autonomous ships or no autonomous ships. Human will always continue to be at the center of all technological development as both the initiators as well as the end users. And their effective interfacing with technology will be both crucial and deterministic for the continued development in the future. Developing human capital of and for the future will be both challenging and rewarding. The outcome will determine the pace of its development. So with that, I just come to the end of my presentation. So I would like to thank you for your time and attention. Thank you very much. And my apologies, Captain Halbe, if I exceeded the time. And thank you for your patience and understanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay. Thank you so much. Yes, a very detailed presentation, culminating in what is expected out of the entire industry, not just the mariners, but the entire industry of how to tackle the future or how to get into the future, rather. We have one more speaker before we get into the panel discussion, and that is Mr. Debashish Mohanty. Can we have you online, Mr. Debashish?
Thank you, Captain Halbe, and it's
Debajyoti. I'm sorry. I am sorry to interrupt here.
Sure.
With your due permission, there's a fantastic option of on this platform of changing your video to low definition video. We're having a slight lag on the Facebook Live, so I would for people you can change over. You have the option of changing to low definition video as well. Just wanted to inform that. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Shaukat. Thank you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see you.
Not my screen as yet. Okay. Give me a second.
We have, Mr. Mohanty, we have finished 1 hour and 17 minutes. So we have precisely another 10 or 12 minutes at the tops. Then we have 10 minutes of panel discussion.
Definitely.
Then we have 10 minutes of panel discussion. And then we have to invite the host so that we can go out to the public and the participants.
Sure. I'm trying to share my screen, but it looks frozen.
Let me help you, Dev. You can just stop sharing now, and you can just reopen the Excel sheet or whatever you're sharing, the PPT, and then go down and share button. And then once you share, you get on top, you'll get an application button. Press on application, see the one you're sharing, click on that, and then share. Try this.
Okay, so I'm clicking on the share screen button. And then go to application window.
Yes, and then identify what you're going to share, click on that, and then share your screen. In the same manner, sir, I would request the moderator to take charge again, and maybe you can continue while we handle the technical issue.
There it is.
Yeah, it's come. It's come.
It's come.
Okay, cool.
I was about to do that, but it's come.
Sure. Thank you. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to people around the world. So the first, so I'll keep it short because I guess we have run out of time. So I represent, of course, I'm part of one of world's largest container shipping organization, Maersk, AP Moller Maersk, an organization which has close to 80,000 employees across 130 countries, has been in existence for 116 years. So the mission of Maersk is to be a global player in container logistics, and of course simplifying customer value chain. I'm part of the organization within Maersk called Maersk Technology, and that is the enabler for the major digitization drive which Maersk has undertaken from 2017 onwards. There are two things which is driving this. One is, of course, that the customer and human demographics are changing, right? You have the Gen Z and the millennials forming more than 50-60% of the workforce, maybe 70% of the workforce, and it's going to grow. And they want a more integrated in your face experience, and that is what is driving us digitization. Of course, the fact that customer now wants that they want an integrated, they don't want to go to an only to an ocean organization. They want an organization which simplifies global value supply chains, right? They don't want to have multiple interfaces. So that's where that is the second factor which is driving mass digitization. The third is, of course, the fact that you never know the next whiz kid of the block who is going to develop an app and completely Uberize, or in India like Olaize, the entire container shipping space, and that is the drivers. Let me focus on the future of human capital, because I'm an HR person. So for me, I think my first this thing is, how do I look at the future talent landscape? One is, of course, that you need to prepare. So it's an agile environment. You need to move fast. Digitize experience, of course, tools, new skills, and the previous speakers have spoken quite a lot about uh, um, what the shipping industry is doing. I'm going to spend less time on that. I'm going to spend more time on one, what is how the talent landscape is looking like, and what Maersk is doing in terms of transforming its technology organization, and then, of course, moving to how does it develop the talent which can withstand this digitization, and then slowly prepare our employees for future flexible roles. You will not have defined roles. You need to have flexible roles. That's where the future landscape is going to look like. Train and hire for that shift, that future capability, that shift that is happening. We need to prepare for that. And of course, going forward, we will prepare business for blended workforces. So you will have machines, you will have gig workers, you will have flexi workers, you will have people who are freelancers, and that's what I mean. And they are going to coexist with machines. So that's the blended workforce that I'm talking about. And of course, using technology for a better human experience. Let me take a couple of minutes to connect with the Gen Z. What is Gen Z? So these are people who have been born after the 2000s. Some of them also defined as anybody born after the 95. So anything between 1980 till the 95s and the 2000s are called millennials, and after that it's the Gen Zs. The fact is, by 2020, 2025, 2027, 25% to 30% of the workforce is going to be Gen Zs. So how should we connect with Gen Z? Communication. This is a generation which is a true digital native generation. They've been born with the internet literally in their hands, right? So they're very visual, and that is why you need to connect with them through visualization. There's a communication. They're always on their phones. They're managing multiple applications. So they think stackable content, right? So keep your communication and content very short. They are the ones who they're a curious generation. They connect they connect with technology very easily. Their ability to, if you need to inspire the Gen Z, you need to rally behind your social causes. So if your organization is not spending enough time talking about how much of social impact it is having, chances are that they may not connect with your organization. And that's where one of the biggest drivers of talent management occurs from, right? And Gen Zs are a generation which where they want to build expertise in everything that they are doing. So what are the differences between millennials and you're talking about almost 60-70% of the workforce, right? So let's talk about what is the millennials and what is the Gen Z. So millennials are pretty savvy with technology, but Gen Zs are truly digital ones. Gen Z feels They deserve opportunities. Gen Y, I meant. Gen Zs are ones who are independent and extremely entrepreneurial. Gen Ys are people who are confident in their beliefs. Gen Zs are more inclusive, right? Collaborative, individualistic. Moving on. So, how does the future of workplace would look like? And that's where, whether it's the COVID situation, but COVID only accelerated this change. I think we were already on that journey of having a workforce which who can work, right? Whether it's freelancers, whether it's gig workers, is crowd. It is a continuum of talent from full time to managed services. Is that's what going to happen? Second, what work can be automated? Increasing robotics, cognitive or AI technologies, but what work can be done by machines, right? And that's going to define the workplace, and it's going to define the workforce. And where is work done will become irrelevant. Where it's about physical distance, or where this work is going to be done is going to be irrelevant going forward. So let me take a step back and talk about what are we doing in Maersk. So Maersk is moving to a technology platform. So how it was traditionally done, whether it was org designs or whether it's ways of working or governance. So it was working in silos, interacting through transition layers, right? While we try to implement pseudo agile waterfall models and stuff like that, but was it working? No, not really. Governance, inconsistent governance process between product and technology, and there was non-uniform value realization or performance management matrix, right? And if I look at the architecture, it was legacy monolithic applications with slow release cycles, right? So it really didn't fit for the purpose that we wanted to do. So what is Maersk technology, or Maersk as an organization, doing to move to a platform-based operating model? What it is doing is it's going into a platform operating model, which is a two in a box. What's a two in a box? It means your business guy, your your frontline, teams, and your technology teams are working together to deliver and support world-class talent. So what is happening is that the business leader is having a what we call as an accountability for the technology products that is going to come out. The technology leader is going to have business accountability for the products that the business is going to come out with. So that's how they're moving to a two in a box model, and it's consistent agile ways of working implemented across platforms. All the teams formed into scrum teams where they work in sprints of 15 days or a week, and that's how we have to change the ways we are working. And it's a huge change. It's a change. It's not just a change of the way we are working, it's also a mind shift change that we are doing. The third one is coherent and common governance, right? And funding methodology across products and platforms. Earlier it used to be silos. We never realized what kind of value what is the end value that we are trying to deliver to the customer, right? And then simplified and modern architecture, which enhances autonomy, it enhances scalability, flexibility, cost efficiency, and those are the ones which are driving why Maersk is moving towards a technology platform. So objectives, of course, it's customer centricity, it is integrated offering, it is speed at which we are. So it's all about failing fast, and that's what we are trying to drive within our workforces, within our leaders. That it is fine to fail, and we are there to support you through this journey. But it is important that we fail fast, so that we learn fast and we move fast. When we are working, it is about getting closer to the customer across. So platform is a virtual setup, right, where you are working as an enterprise within an enterprise, right? So that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to bring in efficiency, doing it beyond reduce cost levels through seamless and end-to-end processes. So where did we get this inspiration from? And one of our biggest inspiration was how Volkswagen operates. So the platforms help the car industry to stay relevant, to ever-growing customer needs while protecting shareholder value. So what was a VW model? So when it was a vehicle-specific component, they moved to a different so across the same platform they had different VW models. But when it really became a platform organization and it was able to scale, it was able to standardize, was because it was able to bring in different VW brands like Audi, Skoda, Volkswagen itself, and they were able to synergize all of across these models with some changes, right? So that is what we are trying to do. And what was the outcome of this thing? It was 20% saving on the unit cost. It was a capex saving of 20%, and time to market got reduced by 30%. And that's what we are trying to achieve, and that's our inspiration. Let's understand what there are a couple of things which I'm going to talk about from here on as to how do we support the talent that is going to come from here, right? There are 3 steps approach to support the leaders, right? So how do I ensure that they are making fast and adaptable decision? It's not just about taking the decision and then sticking it with it for 2 years. No, if we feel that after taking this decision, after 6 months things are changing, we need to adapt and change. And that is how we need to articulate to our workforces, whether it is within the organization or we need to operate as an ecosystem where we are also supporting the other technology, other of course organizations to adapt to the new ways of working. How can leaders role model this and make it real, right? You have to walk the talk, and that's what we are trying. We are spending a lot of time investment into helping the leaders change their headspace, the way they're operating right now, right? And then the third point is embed the new ways of working through an org context. What needs to be true here, right? So let me give you an example, like before I come to learning and development. So we have tried to transform our learning model. So what we are trying to do is we have divided them into 3 parts. One is that we have tried to nominate so for example, what are the skills? Let me take the example of mass technology, right? What are the skills which I know that I have to build right now? I'm going to build my SAP S4 HANA skills. I have to build skills in Python. I'm going to build skill in UX designs. I'm going to build my skills in cloud. So if I'm going to build that, they are my targeted learning. So that's about 50% of my L&D budget, right? Then I'm going to focus on what can be self-nominated. The things like agile and scrum working, DevOps, data analytics, cybersecurity, which cuts across platforms. It doesn't matter which platform you're working, which team you're working over. These are things which are basics across platforms. So it's about 25% of my L&D budget is focused towards self-nominating, for letting our employees nominate themselves. So what they do is they take charge of their own learning, right? I've given them a list of this thing, that these are the ones which are available. They decide what they want to develop themselves in. And third is of course the on-demand part, which of course changes from time to time because of the fact that you're changing, so you need to give them. So what is the culture that I'm trying to drive? I'm trying to build a culture which is of support, which is to push people to embrace failures instead of being afraid of them, right? Keep taking on stretch tasks. Do not pigeonhole people, right? I mean, that if he's a cloud engineer, that is all he is going to do. No, can the cloud engineer also develop them into a full stack engineer? I don't know. Something which can help us talent mobility across platforms. That's what we are trying to drive. And the final thing is sharing. How do I ensure that I build communities of practice and ensure that the learnings and the best practices across streams move seamlessly? And that's
Dev,
the
I really
fundamental
need
reason,
to, my
and
apologies, but
that's
I
the
really need to
fundamental
push.
driver for building this culture of learning, right? And then it is not
I,
just about skilling and helping people to improve. It is also
so,
giving time for self reflection. Is this where I want to be? Is this where I
Sorry
want to
to
be in the
push
next
you,
2 years?
Dev, but we have
This is my
just
final
about
slide.
oh, wonderful. Okay.
The way I see it, if you want the rainbow, you got to put up with the rain. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any time when we run out of time, I think it indicates that things were very interesting. Otherwise, we would have finished much earlier. Uh, it's been a wonderful confluence of four very, very eminent speakers who represent different segments of the professional society, if I may. And I want to ask, I know we have just about 5 minutes for a panel discussion before we hand over to the host, because I can see a lot of questions coming up, and I think the panelists have to be ready for answering those. But I have a question. Some of the points that I was noting, they mentioned about the characteristics of Gen Y and Gen Z. And one of the characteristics of Gen Y was that they are inclusive, while Gen Z is individualistic. And here, while we are talking about the maritime sector for sure, we talk of teamwork, and teamwork. So how will the Gen Z blend into the maritime sector if they want to be very individualistic? How will that happen? Who would like to answer that? Deb or Naomi or Jllian? Anyone? Thank you.
So since I brought up the point, let me just take a minute to just explain the thoughts. So how I see this is that we have to integrate them. So Gen Z are a population or a generation which they're very here and now. They're a very connected generation. So the point is that if there is a purpose, if the organization has a purpose and they feel that the work that they do is impacting society and it is changing the way we currently operate, and if they're very clear on that, you can connect them to anything that you want. The whole idea has always been and is about attaching them to a purpose, whether it's social or whether it is economic. Of course, for them, the social impact is probably a notch above the company impact, but it's always about driving a particular purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. Thank you so much. Quickly, I want to. This is a part of statistics which I had shared with the panel, but I will share with the general audience too. That the ships we operate on the world today, 90% of are more than 5 years old, and 57% are more than 15 years old. If you look at the Indian age statistics or age profile of the Indian seafarer, and there are about 250,000 active, which is quite a lot, big number. 51% are between the age group of 26 to 45, and 11% are between the age group of 46 to 55. Typically, 46 to 55 are the seniors in the, they have reached the top of the pile, if I may. How do you, and so they are the management typically. How do you think that they can interact with the Gen Y and Gen Z, especially with the technology, enhancing or technology moving forward? I won't even use the word moving forward. I would use the word bullying forward. That's what it's doing actually. And Naomi, you're here. I used to, in my previous life, we have been to ARI for conducting a lot of bridge team exercises and bridge resource management, etc. And one of the observations which your very eminent course coordinator would make is that the senior captains are averse to using EGDES as a resource during the team management, while there was always a conflict between the senior captain and the junior third officer, who for him it was just playing with the buttons. How do we integrate all of this together?
I think necessity will ensure change takes place. I think the speed that things are moving and the fact that people will have to pick up, some of the senior officers will, be forced. One hope that there is an attitude change where, it's not my way or the highway. And there's an attitude that people are able to learn and to be able to take inputs. And in some ways, I think that can be seen positively. The fact that young people have skills which they're bringing and they are able to pick up fast, maybe that will help the boundaries, the hierarchical boundaries which have been there to break down when there's a realization from both sides that there are things that people have to share. So I would like to try and see it positively, that maybe that structure which has been in place is slowly breaking in some way, and this will lead towards that.
Yeah, finally, it is a case of shape up or ship out. That's the end result. It's tough, but that's what it will be. So all of you touched on the aspect of multi-skill approach and adaptability. So the multi-skill approach adaptability is, of course, for the human capital. It's not the equipment. Now, the way we operate on board, where the primary focus is on safety, and more safety. Many companies, large organizations have a slogan: if you can't do it safely, don't do it. And I think it's fair comment. However, when we talk about a multi-skilled approach, now we are talking about delivering 100% in every skill that they acquire, not 80%. It's not acceptable. How do you achieve that? Today, we operate in silos, unfortunately, and you have very good, expertise or excellent skill sets in those verticals. But the moment we reduce the number of people as is envisaged with technology, we are talking of multi-skilling. And with multi-skilling, you will need experts. And a poor definition of an expert is a person who knows more and more about less and less. So,
sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. Apologize for interrupting, but we have a lot of questions from the audience. Just for your information.
Right. So maybe this is my last driver for the discussion.
No, so can I read out the questions to you, whatever has come throughout
Let them, I have asked a question. Let them answer this, and immediately we go over to the questions that you're going to read out.
So Shiv, if I could respond to that.
Please.
It's interesting what you said, because in a way that we're moving into so many different approaches and different technologies that I don't think anyone's ever going to be the master, or anyone's ever going to be the expert. What we need to have communities of experts, and we have a generation coming up who are almost like the Google generation. They have a question, they go search it out, and they find the answer. So we don't have to give them the skills to do all of the tasks, because we can't even imagine what those tasks will be. We need to give them the skills to learn so that they can actually go and find the information they need to fix the problem when it arises. And this comes back to my question on teaching and learning. So we have to stop teaching people, and also as senior officers, we have to stop feeling like we are the teachers and we know it, because we actually don't. We need to learn, and we need to become more adept at learning. If something goes wrong on my internet, I had trouble getting in, I don't think about, oh, how am I going to fix it? I Google it. I find an answer. I find somewhere I talk to my kids and I say, listen, I can't get something working. And they say, well, why don't you just Google it? Because that's just what I'm going to do. So we don't need to be experts. And I think, have to move away from this concept that we are experts, because we're communities of experts working together. We were working together perhaps more face-to-face, or I shouldn't say face-to-face, we're face-to-face now. We were working more in the physical presence, perhaps, but we have this ongoing capability to interact. And I think, yes, so the definition of an expert knows more and more about less and less until he knows absolutely everything about nothing. That's a very good definition. I love it. But we are a community, and I think the younger generation are going to be teaching the older generation on how to do this and how to work into the future. And that's where we need to focus on the learning. We can't identify what they need to learn. We just need to tell them how to learn.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Shaukat. I know there are a lot of questions. Some of them I have read.
No, thank you very much. But as rightly you pointed out, the more the questions means the people are engaged, and I really love this. This is really turning out to be one of the most engaging sessions we've had over the last 2 days, and rightly so because of the topic. So I think Naomi already answered Captain Yanki Sharma's question. He has put 2 questions and about learning, and yeah, that you already answered. The first question which had come was from question to Naomi from Captain Vinod Naveen. Is there going to be a change in the hardware requirements on simulator in future, especially in terms of size and cost? So he's put size in 14 font and cost in 120 fonts. No, but this is just from my end. Just joking.
I think it's going to be driven still by policy. It will be up to the maritime administrations to decide. I mean, cloud simulation, which we've seen, it's not going to go away, but there will be a combination of the physical to physical, the virtual to physical. There'll be various options. But of course, this industry is very much driven by policy. Some of the professional development courses, I think, will definitely, because of the cost saving in terms of the logistics, those kinds of benefits which are there of cloud and the ability to bring people together from all over the world through the cloud simulation. I think that will be taken up by private companies. But it's going to be obviously policy driven. So we will have to see how that pans out and how quickly the administrations are able to take up and to review how they want to use simulation within their learning process and assessment process.
Right. So can I put the next question forward, sir?
Please do. Please do.
Okay. So next question was from Captain Yanki Sharma, and two questions from him. One question I think Naomi has already answered, move from teaching to learning, and that he wanted an expansion on that thought. And the next question is again to Naomi and says, with all the focus on new skill requirements that have been identified, like data analytics, digital technologies, and so on, how can it be ensured that the fundamental knowledge and skills relevant to the ship operations are still maintained?
Well, I wish Yankee was there so we could have a discussion. It feels funny to not be able to ask him back, because I would like to ask him, well, what are those fundamental skills and knowledge really? You know, I've been in the industry for 25, 30 years now. And on most of the forums, we've talked about how we do want to review the system which is there, and a lot of it is redundant. Not to take away from the basic skills that we have. But I think there is an opportunity to revamp right now. There are ways in which we can learn, and as I want to reiterate what Jllian was said, a lot of it is the process of learning, not just the content. But I think there are some areas of the curriculum that we could review, and it's time for that. So yes, I think we will be able to find a balance. I believe that we can revamp, we can get rid of some of the redundancy, and we can build in the skills inherently in the way in which we are learning and assessing.
Okay, can I go over to the next question, sir?
Please do, sir. Please do.
Okay, so next question is from Captain Vinod Naveen again, and this question goes to Captain Bhavnani. He has asked this question to Dr. Bhavnani, sorry. Do we have competencies that is required for future human capital defined, or do we need to design them?
Well, thank you for your question, Captain Naveen. I think we have the competence defined at a broad level, but of course, at a very specific level, it would yet need to be done. It would probably depend on, what is the kind of vessel, what is the equipment which is there, and also, how the entire technology is going to develop over the next few years. But yes, I think this is a very, very valid point. It's very important that at an industry level, we need to sit down and define the competencies which would be required to be demonstrated by the seafarers and the mariners, and also by the other people who are involved with the industry, so that we are able to ensure that everything gets complemented very well, and at the same time nothing really just gets missed out. But yes, I think the whole thing is quite evolving, and to a large extent, while I said on one side we should attempt to put it all down together, on the other side we should accept and recognize that there is a challenge, because technology itself is just developing. But yes, we will have to find a balance to this and try and put it down in a manner which is more formal and probably which is going to be applicable throughout the industry, at least at an elementary level to start off with. Thank you. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Okay, so we will ask him back again this question. Can I, Captain Halbe, can I take the next question?
Please do. Please do.
Okay.
Shaukat, I can see a question from a seafarer. Can you see that from one gentleman called Indrajit Guchait, who's a chief engineer with Maersk Line? Can I read out that question?
Yes, please, sir. Yes.
Okay. He says that as a seafarer, we have a feeling that despite a lot of international conventions, we, the seafarers, always are at the receiving end in terms of work pressure, prolonged contract length, piracy, armed robbery, etc., etc., etc. Who would like to take that, or who would like to answer that? Jillian?
Yes, and I see that question there. It says, how effective is current maritime education
That's
and training
the second question.
and STCW? Well, I think the first part is just a statement saying that they are. And as a seafarer, I remember as well, and I remember too well that the introduction of technology was never done very cleanly. I think when I got my ECTIS, we tied up for a couple of hours and we left with an ECTIS. And there we go with the book. How fun. So how effective is the current maritime education and training, I think, was really getting to the crux of the question. And yes, so I think Naomi also touched on that. The content and the elements that are being trained, not only in STCW, but in other training, for example, the VTS. I'm in the process right now of reviewing the V103 training program, the curriculum for VTS operators, for the very same purpose. Technology is changing. And when we're looking at the role, and especially for the seafarers who are, it's a very difficult time right now as seafarers, I think. I've been doing a lot of action around that to try and highlight and to thank seafarers for all their work. As we're moving to the future, we need to look more, I believe, at the outcome of what it is needing to be done, rather than keeping that focus on task A, task B, task C. And I think, again, that goes back to this concept of teaching and learning. So there will need to be a curriculum. There is, as Naomi says, we're a very regulatory organization. We tend to be driven as an industry by regulations. But the changes that are coming are so quick that we can't actually think that we can update a complete competence table in order to adapt to changing technologies. So what we need to do, I think, is instead focus on what it is we want the seafarers to be able to do, the critical thinking skills, the being able to adapt to new technology. These are looking at more the skill sets, I think, for the future. How can the industry progress without sorting out these long pending issues is a very good question. I think it's one of those rhetorical questions that could be very difficult to answer. But I expect Naomi has some other comments and thoughts as well.
Yes, sir. I mean, I agree with you. But we are pushed by regulation. The attitude and behavior of seafarers is such that, when courses which are mandatory, we do need to still focus on that. I think we need to be able to look at the curriculum that we have right now, look at what STCW is saying, but I think there is scope within that still to be able to review and to revamp currently. I think we have the time and the opportunity now to do that. And I would like to see the mandatory part also being reviewed and updated.
If I may, just one last to come back to that, because I think you touched on a really good point, Naomi, with regards to looking at the outcomes and the assessment. So if we can drive how we assess and link that back to the taxonomies so that we actually have the objectives clearly written to the level, the higher order or the lower order of training that's required. And so therefore we're writing assessments that actually reflect that outcome. I think that might be a way to start driving change before a full review of STCW even happens, because as you said, there's scope within it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key. If our assessment technology is upgraded, then automatically the learning will change. Absolutely.
Just to add to that, the STCW actually provides for that. There are 4 tables in the code. First one is about competence. Second one is knowledge, and knowledge and what is expected. Third one is the method of demonstrating competence, and the fourth one is criteria for the evaluating competence. So it provides you the tools. It's just that we need to step up to the plate. When I say we, it's a inclusive we. It's not just the training institute. It's the inclusive we which needs to step up to the plate and establish how it is to be done, and that it should keep moving with the technology. So your competence can remain the same, but your assessment methods can keep changing as time progresses, as technology changes.
Yeah, and I think, Captain, I just wanted to add, I think we have the opportunity now. The technology has moved to a stage where we can do it. Earlier it was harder, but now it's been pushed to the platforms that we're creating do make it easier for mass assessment to take place.
I mean, earlier, these 6 months have shown us that the cloud-based simulation is here and now. If in February somebody had told us about cloud-based simulation, I can very well imagine the companies, etc., would have been loath because they would like to see the man on the simulator. Okay, all together. It's not necessary anymore. It has shown us that. So we can move ahead. Shaukat, I will hazard this comment on the statement made by the chief engineer. And I know he's saying as a chief engineer because it is extremely painful for the seafarer. And the one comment starting I would like to make, that the world needs to be kinder to the seafarer. There is no question about it. The world over, the scenario has been, we want the cargo, but we don't want you. That must change. I don't know how it is going to happen, but that must change. Once that changes, you will find that half of these problems will go over. SIRC publishes some very interesting reports. SIRC in Cardiff, Siemens International Research Center, and there is a lot of learning in those reports as to what the seafarers actually feel about the rest of the world, and it's not complimentary. That I must say, it's not complimentary. Anyway, let's move on to the next question because we are in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, I will. Last 3 minutes, we have 3 more questions, but before that, I want to ask a question, and this has been going on in my mind, and I think this is perfect forum to ask something like this. It's on human capital. We have 2 very eminent people who have specialized. I mean, Dr. Bhavnani has got a PhD in human resource, and we have also Debajyoti. And Debajyoti, I would like to throw something at you, and very short if you can, because you've been working across genres, across borders, not only in the maritime, but AB Moller Maersk is also involved with a lot of other projects as well. So you're handling human capital across different industries and different paths. How do you think is the demarcation of human capital in maritime compared to the other industry? Do we need special kind of training, or do we need special kind of tools which handles a seafarer? You must be having a real good comparative study at your end.
Sure. Thank you, Shaukat. I think it's a very relevant question, and I have worked. My industry before this was consulting, so I worked with PwC and KPMG. So they're a lot more evolved, if you ask me, especially when it comes to technology, especially in terms of spending time, training people in the newer technologies. I think that's where I think Maersk is trying to invest a lot into the new capabilities, into future capabilities, but it's a long way to go. And I think one of the things that I realized when I moved across industries is that while the motivations and behaviors doesn't change of human beings, what changes is the context. And I think it is important that the leadership, whether it is of maritime or whether it's any other industry, I think leaders have to take charge, and they have to explain to the people the context, and that's the only way you can actually have learning paths, and ensure that they're learning the right stuff. And let me just take 1 minute of thinking that I think Captain Halbe spoke about the fact that and I think Jllian also spoke about it, that what do leaders need to do right now? And I think there was one of the questions is that what is the expectation from next generation seafarers? I think it's important that we do not bury them in organization levels. We need to have, we need to ensure, and we need to realize that it's the bottom pool which is there in the front line who are actually doing the job. So as leaders, we need to be facilitators and ensuring that they are able to showcase their talent, they're able to do the right things for the organization and not bury them in bureaucracy and levels, if that answers.
Yeah, that definitely. In fact, this is such an interesting discussion. I can see Jllian also nodding her head. It's such an interesting discussion. I think we can go on and on and on. Sir, can I put forward the next question to you, which has come?
Please do.
So Captain Shivangi has given a statement. I think it's rather more of a statement than a question, which I want to put forward and see. He says, especially over the past few months have been a great learning, a huge amount of information on the change that is happening, and many very relevant points have been highlighted. At times it's quite overwhelming and various challenges are already being addressed. So this is more of a statement. Then we have a series of questions from Captain Singh, but I have collated and put them all in one, and I'm putting this forward to you now. He says, how effective is current maritime education and training SCCW? As we know, SCCW was last revised in 2010. In my view, it appears complex. How do we simplify this? And don't you think maritime is over-regulated? Secondly, today technology is outpacing the training. How are we going to catch up with the dynamic situation? Too many questions, actually.
Naomi, would you like to? I mean, seeing from the last part first. So, would you like to take that?
Yes, in terms of over-regulation, I think that's the way that the industry is right now. I don't think that's going to change. We're going to have to learn to live with that. As I mentioned in my presentation, in terms of maritime training catching up, we do need to have a lot of support from the industry. I think, yes, maritime trainers are going to struggle to keep up to date, so we're going to need a lot of synergy between OEMs and the industry in terms of inputting. So we need to be flexible in terms of the types of maritime trainers that we have. I think this remote learning and e-learning, which now we've again seen a push, is going to help us. Access to information, access to education has changed dramatically, and I think that's the way that we're going to go. We're going to be able to cross global borders with experts, and we need to perhaps change some of the rules to allow different people to input in terms of education and training to get the inputs in which are required. So as I said before, the platform has developed so quickly and so rapidly and is now in use. So I think e-learning, access to education, remote learning is going to help us keep pace with the changes which are there and getting the expertise that we need.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered everything or if anyone else from the panel. It was a series of questions.
There is one more question from Captain Sudarshan. And Sudarshan has asked, with so many expectations from the next generation seafarers, how are we going to attract next generation seafarers for seafaring and enjoying this profession? I think this is a lot to do with the human capital, the resource that we're talking about for the future.
One factor is that, this comment actually was also made maybe 20 years back by the General of the Indian Army, who said that we are 40,000 men short and we do not seem to be able to attract the right talent or right people. And the armed forces launched on a blitzkrieg of media exposure. And I was on a forum not so long ago, which was actually hosted by the Navy and the Nautical Institute, when we had it on last month, Jllian, if you will recall. And there, one of the naval historians actually told us as to how in that about 60, 70 or years back, or 100 years back maybe, they recruited scores of people. I mean, when I say scores, I mean those days the Navy had 500 people on a ship maybe. So they recruited a large number of people by actually setting up mock ships in the deserts of Rajasthan so that the locals could see what a ship was. They had never seen a ship. And I'm not saying we need to do that, but maybe it is a time for us to allow our training institutes and facilities to be opened up to the general public. And this initiative was actually promoted by Dr. Malini Shankar during her tenure as the Director General of Shipping, just as the Navy has a Navy Week, which starts on 4th of December. So we should also have something like a Merchant Navy Week, which we have the National Maritime Day on 5th of April, I'm sorry. And we should, look at promoting like that. There are some other organizations also which are trying to go out and reach out to the people, not just about finding seafarers, but about knowledge about the maritime world in general, because that is what people do not know. And that association is MAPS. I think you are aware of that. They have made a wonderful movie clip. It's on YouTube. It's about 7 minutes, and it talks about the relationship between the maritime world and the landlubbers, how it affects us on a day-to-day basis. I think things like that will need to be compulsory viewing in schools. It's only 7 minutes, and today schools have internet, they can view such things. I'm just throwing ideas in the pot, and there will be more. And it's not about me individually or you individually doing something. I think it's a collective effort, and we have to go walking around take a day off, go to the schools. I have done that, and I have found when I went to one school once, or actually it was a college, I went there once. Now they want me to keep coming every year, so I don't have time to go to any other colleges.
Sir, we need to wind up now. We're already 10 minutes,
Sure.
I think, above. Sure. But like I said, we don't want to end this session. It's so engaging. I would like to firstly thank all the speakers. This could not have been possible without your support. Thank you, Jllian. Thank you, Dr. Bhavnani. Thank you, Captain Shiv Halbe. Thank you, Naomi Rewari. Thank you, Debajyoti. And you bring in your flavor of engagement to FSM. And we've had the global viewership only because of you. So namaskar, and thank you really, really very much for your engagement. This is one thing. I would like to thank the sponsors because of which we could bring this program globally to you. HSBC has been our partners, and we've doing this program in association with HSBC. Best Marine, ARI, Ocean Technologies, Bana Chulte, Anglo-Eastern, Marlow Navigation, Maritime Trainers Guild, Nautical Institute, Benedict, FOSMA, MASA, MUI, they're all supporting this event in some way or the other, and we are really grateful to all of them. All of India has come forward to support this. I can only just raise a toast and say thank you, and this has been a great learning experience, and especially the students. Yesterday, last night when I went back home from our venue, I was flooded with WhatsApp messages from students saying that, sir, we want to attend, and we have attended. It's a huge thing. So I personally feel elated when students tell me that there has been some learning, because I think this discussion, as well as the forthcoming discussions we're going to have today, is all about the new generation and the new feed that is coming in the industry. So with that in mind, and again, thank you all. And now we will be stopping the Facebook Live, and we will be ending this session. But please do stay back. We have a request. After this session, please visit the ARI booth, all of you, sir. And we'll meet you at the ARI booth, Jllian and Captain Halbe and everybody. If you just click sessions, and if you click the arena after we have ended the session, just click arena, go to the ARI booth, and just meet at table 1. And then also you can please do visit the HSBC booth as well. So thank you very much. Until we meet again, stay put. Till we meet again.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Goodbye from sessions 3
Thank you.
FSM 2020.
Thank you, Jllian. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Dev. And thank you, Dr.
attending.